National Park Service is all about natural ecosystems and native species. That's what we're established to have, and it's our legal mandate. By law, that's what we're supposed to be doing. All native species that we can possibly bring in that would be viable in today's world, and that we have enough land to support. And so buffalo were brought back to put a native species back on a native prairie that we have. Bison are integral to the prairie health. They eat the plants, they keep them growing right. They evolve together over thousands and thousands of years. The bison's a dominant herbivore of the prairie, and they're just a natural part of what the native prairie is. And so it was very important for us to get that back into the Badlands Park.
Bison used to roam the Badlands area in herds of thousands, but were killed off by settlers for a number of reasons. Bison competed with cattle for grazing lands. Railroad companies also were a factor. It's rumored that William Frederick Buffalo Bill Cody got his nickname by killing over 4,000 bison while working for Kansas Pacific Railroad Company. The once great herds were pushed nearly to the point of extinction. If not for the foresight of a few, we may not have the bison that remain today.
When the bison were almost extinct, there's really about 5 founders herds around the country that were basically saved by ranchers who, there's a few small bands left in the country, and there's 5 people who are given credit for saving the bison. 2 of those were Dupree, I think it's Frederick Dupree, that I believe South Dakota's town of Dupree is named for, and then Scotty Phillip, where I live in Phillip, South Dakota. And they saved some of the animals that were left on the prairie, kept them from getting shot, and then over the course of years they bred them.
The buffalo we see today at Badlands National Park come from those founding herds. Every fall, park biologists, veterinarians, and special volunteers hold one of the more rugged roundups in the country to monitor their bison population.
The park, although it's large, it's the largest park in the Midwest region for the National Park Service at 250,000 acres. There's only a certain amount of grazing that's available for the bison herd, and an effort to ensure that the environment isn't damaged by a herd that's too large, we have to cull that herd, cut it back into a manageable size for the grazing opportunities that we do have. So that's what this operation is about, is to return the herd to a usable population that can work well with the resources that we have.
Culling a herd of wild bison is a tricky endeavor, one that the park staff has worked to improve year after year.
We really try hard to maintain a wildness about the bison herd, so that when we do our culling operation, it's done in relative peace and quiet, with the idea of treating them, ensuring that wild nature of the buffalo. And buffalo are not like cattle. A lot of people look at it that it's just like rounding cows, but it's not. They're very unpredictable. They can move very well as a herd for direction, and then again, if something happens, they can move with great determination. That can make it very, very difficult. And even in the process of working them through the complex over here, we have to take great care, because if anything would spook the animals, it could really not only hurt the animals, causing unnecessary mortality, but it could also hurt the entire operation. So that, for example, instead of just having fences, all the chutes, everything is built with large plastic panels, so that the bison can't see the people working in the corrals and doing all the work. And that way they don't get spooked by the presence of the people. It also helps us move them in different directions. And it helps protect the bison from each other, especially once they're going into pens. Because if any of the bulls get spooked, it's easy for a calf or a yearling to get stompled and injured, Or you take just a bull who throws a horn and all of a sudden an animal gets gored, and then the smell of blood can really impact our ability to do the job. And we really want to have as few fatalities as possible. I think we've been exceptionally successful at that, and that's pretty remarkable. We'll move more than 600 animals through the culling operation.
The park uses the opportunity of having all the animals gathered together to do some research as well.
The stage at where we do most of our work with the bison, most of the handling, get all our data, is the final stage in the chute system is called a squeeze chute. And what that does is you bring them in from other chutes individually, put them in there, you squeeze it down to hold them, not tight. And then you can take blood samples, put ear tags in, check their teeth for their age, and all that. So it's built specifically for bison, and it works really well. We can run adults and calves through it.
Once the samples are taken, they're handed over to park veterinarian Eddie Childers for processing.
But that's the first test we do, brucellosis. I also take, from our females, I take blood and I look at the blood for a pregnancy test. We send the samples off to Texas A&M University, and we look at the pregnancy rate on all of our females. And we look at the DNA, and we're just monitoring. We're trying to keep a healthy herd genetically and preserve unique genes in the herd. You know, there are unique genes to our herd that show resistance to certain diseases. So we want to keep that going in the population.
The bison are also microchipped in the chute, so exact data can be gathered over the years.
From a distance, the public can look upon it and see a herd of bison. There's no radio collars or anything, but in fact, there's a tremendous database of information on those same animals.
The bison are only on about 64,000 acres of the North Unit, 100,000 acres, and we'd like to someday have bison throughout the whole park. They just belong there. The people want to see them there. And it'd just be great, I think, if we could do that, restore bison and get them roaming throughout Badlands National Park.